Hey everyone, welcome back to the Caderna podcast. I'm your host, Brian Caderna. Today I sit down with a real Renaissance man chasing the American dream. Andy Ross is a country music star, a former TV host, and the CEO of a publicly traded company. If that sounds like an eclectic mix, which it certainly is, you're soon going to find out that there's a passion for the outdoors that serves as the common denominator. Andy grew up in a small town in Kansas before he went on to found Ross Archery, became the host of Maximum Archery on the Outdoor Channel, released that hit song, American Rebel, and founded American Rebel Holdings, which is now publicly traded on the NASDAQ Stock Exchange. Andy's latest song is called All American Heart. This show is brought to you by my new book, What Should I Do With My Money?, published by McGraw Hill. It is now available in paperback, Kindle, and audiobook wherever books are sold. Just as this show was based on achieving wealth in its original meaning, a state of well-being, so will my new book help you achieve wealth in times of chaos. Now, here's Andy Ross.
Is going to require work and time and sweat and toil.
If money wasn't an issue, what would I be doing?
Don't worry about it. You'll figure it out.
Change is the only constant.
The Caderna Podcast.
Andy, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you very much for having me. Happy to be here today.
Yeah, happy to have this conversation. I always like to meet people that have such a, eclectic background. And for yourself, where did it start? I mean, were you entrepreneurial minded or did you just want to be a rock star?
I always probably had a desire to chase the American dream. I didn't know necessarily that meant entrepreneur at the time. Because, even as a kid, I was trying to figure out, how to have the better lemonade stand and, retrieve golf balls out of the pond and take them back to the, to the pro shop for money. And, I was always trying to figure out a way to make some money other than just getting a job, right? I mean, somehow I would try to figure out how to make a nickel, but it never really dawned on me, to go down as a kid and just apply for a job. But I was making money at a very young age. Mm-hmm. I had a company. Well, let's start with this. I had a passion hunting growing up, and when I was hunting, I grew up in southeast Kansas, little town called Chanute, Kansas. And me and my friends like to, we mainly hunting with shotguns, doing quail hunting, pheasant hunting, turkey hunting, duck hunting, those types of of upland birds and waterfowl. Yeah. And I went to school, in a time where, you could have your shotguns hanging in the back of your pickup truck and park in the school parking lot, no one thought anything of it. And we would even go hunting before school. I mean, we would go like duck hunting before school, get to school 10 minutes late, and the principal would be like, guys, try to move it along a little early tomorrow. I know duck season open, but, hey, how'd you do? Pretty relaxed. But went from that and developed a big passion for bow hunting. Once I started bow hunting, I never looked back. I just really developed a passion for bow hunting. And then almost as a hobby, I started manufacturing bows, not necessarily intending or thinking that would, be a big business or a springboard into other opportunities. I just really had a passion for archery. Yeah. And as this bow company started to evolve a couple of years and really started to kind of get some legs and start going from a hobby business to a business, it dawned on me that, my competitors, the bigger bow companies out there, they were all sponsoring or had some type of TV program on the Outdoor Channel. Bow hunting TV was becoming very popular with the Outdoor Channel and great shows like Ralph and Vicky's Archer's Choice and Michael Waddell and the Drury Brothers and these.
When about was this that was really starting to kind of come to fruition on TV? Like what time frame?
Let's say when I was really getting into it, have been starting like 2003, 2004, 2005, kind of in that area. Okay. It's really becoming popular, and the equipment was getting better, and digital cameras were, at least DVD tape, or you didn't have the cameras with the big VCRs. You had smaller equipment to have a cameraman be in the woods with you, and it just became possible. I mean, the Outdoor Channel let people who could film and produce a quality TV show, gave them a platform to air those TV shows. And they became personalities too. Getting a little off track, but the popularity of like NASCAR was really strong back then. And bow hunter guys like Waddell, they were hanging out with the NASCAR drivers, and country music and was and is and always will be hopefully popular. And the country artists were watching the shows and guesting on the shows. Why a country artist that can place arenas all over the country is guest starring on a little hunting show because they love hunting. But a lot of things made it popular. Once everybody started running with the NASCAR drivers and the Nashville artists and these types of things, it really elevated too. So I wanted to get one of these guys or gals to shoot my bow on their show. The Drury Brothers, the Primos guys. I wanted, Hunter Specialties. I wanted someone to shoot my bow on TV. But since I was fairly new and they all had contracts with the established companies like Bowtech and Hoyt and Matthews, I couldn't get them to do it. I was too small, company was too new, and the bigger companies, it'd be like if you golf. I don't golf, but it's a good reference. It'd be like, you come out with a new golf club and you're trying to get someone to use your golf clubs that's endorsed by Ping or Titleist, or it's like how do you do that, right?
Yeah, how do you break into that?
So I had a friend that knew a guy named Mike Osborne who had done some part-time filming for the Drury Brothers.
Okay.
And I decided I was going to take him, see if he'd go with me on 4 or 5 hunts, film my hunts, and then I would just make a DVD and put it in the box. And then when we did trade shows like the archery trade shows, I would have a DVD to hand out. They were $1, once you film them and edit them, a DVD to hand out to people and so on. And that was as close as I could get to having my bow on TV. Well, little did I know, 4 months later, the Outdoor Channel got a hold of the DVD and called me up and said, "How would you like to do a show?"
Wow.
So
was that like the tipping point?
Huh?
Was that like the tipping point? Like that was the big break?
Tipping point number one. It rolled from there. The American dream was alive and well from there. So now I have my own TV show, which I did not really see coming.
Yeah. And do you mind if I could jump in there? So
sure.
Do you know like how Outdoor Channel actually got that DVD? Did you ever go back and kind of see where that came from?
No, not really, because it just didn't surprise me. Once they said they saw the DVD, it didn't really surprise me because we were all at the same trade shows. I mean, the Outdoor Channel, Sportsman's Channel, they all had booths and representatives at the Archery Trade Association show, Great American Outdoor Show, Iowa Deer Classic, Dixie Deer Classic, Wisconsin Deer and Turkey Expo. I mean, it's not a big group of, in comparison to the automotive industry or something. It's
correct. Yeah.
And, somebody who had a show who, started to take an interest in our bow or whatever, got a DVD and showed it to an editor. Or I didn't even ask, but now I'm curious because you brought it up. And too long ago, I'll probably never get the answer to that question.
Yeah. Was that like one trade show you did? Because you hear about stories like this, like, oh, I was going to 2 trade shows a week for 2 years, and then finally somebody saw it. Was it like that, or was it the first one out? They just happened to be there and they caught it.
Well, no, I mean, it took 4 to 6 months before this happened. It was approximately 4 months. And we were going to a lot of trade shows, some big, like the Great American Outdoor Show, or the Archery Trade Association, some small, regional, like the Iowa. I mean, it's a big show, the Iowa Deer Classic, but it draws from a 4-state area primarily. Yeah. So some bigger than others. So it did surprise me. The other thing we did is we had a TV in the booth with the bows, and when I put my DVD running in a loop on that TV, everybody walking by just assumed that was a TV show, clips from a TV show. So we kind of got some street credit for like having a TV. I mean, no one even knew who I was, but because my hunt was playing behind us over my shoulder and we were giving out DVDs, they were asking me to sign them.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not even on TV, but I'll sign it.
Yeah.
And so we just kind of, you know, ran like, you know, we were part of the you know, the group.
Yeah.
And, then we became part of the group.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's almost like you fake it till you make it a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it really was a little like that. I mean, we didn't go in there going, you know, we're the smallest bow company I mean, we went in there and I got, you know, fairly good sized booths and put up a display as if, you know, people should have seen us and known who we were for years. I mean, we went in there strong.
Mm-hmm.
And
what were you doing at the time? Like, I know you're out there hunting, obviously you make this little DVD, like at the same time, are you working a day job to pay the bills, or like, what's life like at that point?
yeah, I had another project I was involved in called Digital Ally. And
Okay.
I was actually there more my full-time position, but that really started changing quick. Once the TV show came out and we had to go film the show. I mean, we went from like doing a few hundred bows a year to doing like 2,200 bows a year to doing like 12,000 a year.
Wow.
And,
Wow.
and up there. I mean, it went once we started running with that crowd and being on TV. TV did exactly what I thought it would do. Why I wanted to get one of the big personalities to shoot my bow. Did not know I would become, I won't say one of the, you know, biggest personalities, but a personality on outdoor TV. And certainly was in the, you know, for years, the show was in there with the best shows, you know, available.
Yeah. And was
we-
this
we
so?
did-
If I
Right.
could just kind of hit rewind for a quick second. So you say you're from a small town in Kansas. You know,
Yep.
I'm from Jersey, where you grow up, you're playing, you know, baseball, football, and the like, and then thinking about going to college. Were you like an outlier amongst your friends, or was everybody saying, "Hey, I want to get into fishing or hunting and try and, you know, make this thing blow up"? Like, what was kind of the normal track, I guess, for you and your pals, like growing up?
Okay, so let me kind of clarify that. I was kind of moving the story down the road pretty fast, but so I had already moved at this point to Kansas City, and
Okay.
by the time I started making bows, I was already, you know, as a hobby and then turned into a business. I was already like 30.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'd
Gotcha.
already moved out up to Kansas City. I'd gotten married. The girl I married, his family was from Wisconsin. They loved to hunt. I loved to hunt, but the only difference was they were all archery. They actually took me on my first hunt, and they're like, "Where's your bow?"
Yeah.
I ran to a store in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin called Dutch's and bought a bow like 3 days before we left for the hunt.
No
And,
idea how to use it.
and we were in their backyard. They lived out in the country with a little bit of land, and for 3 days they were getting me ready.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
and I caught on quick. You know, I caught on quick. And a couple of years later, I actually started making bows. And a couple of years, you know, 4 or 5 months later, a couple of years later, we started making bows. A couple of years later, you know, I wanted to get it on TV, and then, you know, you know the story from there.
Yeah.
Uh,
And was it a thing where like you just fell in love with archery and with bows, or was it something like, you know, you're using bows every day and it's like, man, I just can't stand this one aspect. Like if I could just fix this one part of the bow, then I'll have, you know, my own type of bow that I think people are going to love. What was it? Was it kind of fixing a problem that needed to be fixed, or did you just kind of build on something that you fell in love with?
A little bit of all, you know, a little bit of both. The Matthews bow was very popular, but it had a really fat grip,
Mhm.
and that company was out of Wisconsin. And the reason it had a really fat grip is so it insulated your hand from the metal of the bow, the wooden
Okay.
grip. But it also, in my opinion, and many others, it sets you up for more torque because your hand, you know, is holding a bigger surface area. And the Hoyt bow had a real thin grip. I mean, it just had like little plates on each side. But they had a whole different setup. So my first thought was, well, I wish I had a Matthews bow with a Hoyt grip. And
Okay.
then I wish it had this and did that. And if it was up to me, I'd do it this, you know. So it was just a couple of things. I certainly was not a bow engineered genius and just out engineered and overnight my competition. That's not what happened. We made a good product. In my opinion, we made a great product. It certainly would stand toe to toe with the Hoyt, the Matthews, the bow, and the Bowtech.
Mhm.
And I really think what happened was I outmarketed them. Well, I marketed well enough to get a piece of their business. I'm not going to say I outmarketed them. That sounds like, I built a company and dwarfed them. That's not what happened. I became one of the bows in that, I was in the game.
Yeah,
And,
gotcha.
but I had the idea and I was told I couldn't do it, but I always, when I'd go elk hunting, deer hunting, and the big antlers, right?
Mhm.
I always referred to it as bone. It's like, look at the bone on top of that.
Yeah.
I just did for whatever reason. So I came up with this slogan, own more bone with Ross Archery. And I had a logo, and then we made shirts and hats, and I called it Boneware. We had a store, Boneware store on the website. And I remember my first trade show showing the bow. I had some people say, you can't say that. That's I said, why? What? Well, some people might take that the wrong way, and I'm like, well, you're an idiot. It's own more bone with Ross Archery, and it's Boneware, and in the beginning, I sold more hats and I did more revenue off hats, shirts, and stickers than I did bows.
That's
People
crazy.
loved the kids. They loved the Boneware. It was like someone finally did something cool in
Yeah.
this industry. And I always say, they said, I've been interviewed many times, and they, back in the day in the bow business, and they said, how did you know that the market was ready for a new bow? And I said, the market wasn't ready for a new bow. The kids were ready for a new sticker for their truck. Everybody had the Matthews sticker.
Yeah.
The kid wanted to put own more bone with Ross Archery sticker in his truck. And then he decided to wear the hat and shoot the bow, I guess. They just fell in love with the slogan.
That is so cool.
And now if you go to a trade show, it wasn't 2 or 3 years after that, every third booth, was saying something about, bone and instead of antler. It changed the vocabulary of what was going on there. But
and did you have any point, because now you're really becoming an entrepreneur at that stage, and I feel like you have those moments where you get some hopes, and then you have other days where it's like, I'm just beating my head against the wall here, and I don't know if it's going to catch. Did you ever have kind of that moment where you're like, maybe I just got to move on to something else? Or did you just kind of keep like hitting Lucky Street and working your way up?
I honestly, I've had so many blessings in my life. I have turned one thing accidentally into something else, accidentally into something else, and accidentally into something else. And all I know that I'm chasing the American dream. I got my eyes open for opportunity. I don't mind working hard. I'm not a I need a Rolex and a yacht and a Mercedes kind of guy. So I live my life in t-shirts and blue jeans and so I'm not necessarily chasing money.
Yeah.
That, you have to make money to make the thing work.
Yeah.
But that's not my drive.
Mm-hmm.
And so, the only thing I come back, and you probably heard me say it 10 times in this interview. It's, just been blessed to have one thing turn into to another opportunity.
Yeah.
When you started this presentation, when you started the show, you talked about all these many things I do, right?
Mm-hmm.
To me, I just did one thing, and it just turned into something else, but I never changed throughout the process.
Yeah.
So I'm still just doing the same thing I've always done. I might have to change my hat, or grab a different card, if you will, but the guy that's doing, running the CEO of a publicly traded company is no different than the guy that was doing the bow hunting show and the guy that hits the stage, Saturday night to play a concert. I'm just
Yeah.
running around being the same person. So,
what was like going back then? Like, if you can take us to kind of those early years, your 20s, or now you're 30 and you're doing the trade shows. Like, what was the goal? I know you say money wasn't the driver; you just need enough to keep this thing going. But did you want to have the biggest company, the best company? Did you just want to have fun and meet people that you like? Like, what was that kind of vision that you had?
The goal with the bow company was to be in the business and be able to go on as many hunts as possible. And at the time I wanted to do the Grand Slam, which is, all the different game species you can hunt. Chuck Adams has done it. Very few people have done it. I mean, I just wanted to go hunting. And if I could be in a business that was in the hunting business and my hunts could be basically free or tax write-offs, and I could talk hunting all day, and I could go to, hunting events and hunting camps and hunting trade shows. And, I was living the life that millions and millions and millions of people save up to do on their vacation. And I was living that life every day.
That's
and
awesome. That's awesome.
That was my drive, is like, how can I be doing this every day? How can I wear, camo 30 weeks a year and, go to hunting trade shows these other weeks and talk hunting and be hunting. And, I never really thought about, I thought about paying my bills and I thought about paying for aluminum, but I never really thought. I did think, about buying land, and, if this was real successful, I would buy, where I'd buy property and maybe manage it for deer hunting. And, I had some but it was all hunting. It was all just, that's all I wanted to do. It's like if you love cars and you love cars and you love cars, and somehow you find yourself being a NASCAR driver, and you just get to race cars and talk motors and tires and fuel injection systems 24/7.
That's
so
the question I had on that. So any sort of sport like that, where you're like, man, if I could live out what is other people's vacation, you mentioned the golf analogy before. I would love to go play golf at the nicest courses in the world and get paid or do it for free. But you think to get there, I mean, you have to be a very rare talent and you got to work your tail off. Or even if, like you said, you love NASCAR, well, to go do that every weekend and be Jeff Gordon, you got to be one of a kind. Is it like that with hunting? Like, did you have to be a great hunter?
Yes, you had to be a good hunter, but you didn't have that. That was the unique difference. I've told this a handful of times. The unique difference was you got to be one of the best golfers. I mean, there's a reason. And, if you want to be a quarterback in the NFL, if you think about it, there's 32 teams. So there's 32 starting quarterbacks. There's really 20 good ones. And there's only probably 15 that could actually win the Super Bowl. There's only a handful of Pat Mahomes and Joe Burrows and, those types there's only a handful of really franchise quarterbacks. So obviously if there were more of them, every team would have two. But they're far and few between. If you're going to be a golfer and you're going to be on that tour and you're going to compete with Tiger Woods, I mean, you got to be one of the best of the best of the best. I never thought of myself, because everybody started saying, well, you guys are pro hunters. Well, I'm a pro hunter because I'm on TV. I'm a personality is why I'm on TV, not because I'm a pro hunter. In fact, my cameraman, Mike Osborne, in my opinion, is a better hunter than me. A lot of the stuff and successes that I had to at least a medium degree, every hunt, and to a large degree, a lot of my hunts, the success I had was because of Mike. Mike was running camera and, sometimes hanging behind me calling elk. And, I'm in the path of where the elk's going to come to the call, or he might even say, you know what, let's do, he would game plan, almost every move. And we got to the point, because we did it for 10 years, we got to the point where I could almost just look at him, and know, and he could make some facial expression or eye movement, and I would know what he's trying to tell me, or I
Yeah.
could do the same to him, and he would, oh, okay, Andy's going to do, we just got real good at communication.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, what you had to be able to do in the hunting world is you had to be a really good hunter, because you got to get the job done, but you needed to have a personality, something different about your show, which led to my other things that I've gravitated and graduated to, and you needed to have kind of a hook. It's like my bow was a great bow, but the own more bone with Ross Archery is kind of what kicked it into gear. So no, you could be a good hunter, a real good hunter, not the best in the world, like the best golfers are on tour, the best football players play on Sunday. But if you had a personality and you had a show and you had an editor and good footage and an eye to get B-roll and get it edited and box it up into a package and put a brand on it, a lot of it was marketing.
Yeah.
When I say that, I don't want to take away from anybody like Ralph and Vicky or Waddell or Lee and Tiffany or any of them, and not say that they're not some of the best hunters in the world. I'm just saying you can get the job done if you can be a really good hunter and you've got the other intangible.
Yeah, I guess it's almost like I love watching these cooking shows with like Guy Fieri or Emeril or some of them. It's like maybe they're not the best cook, but they just make a great show at the same time.
Yeah, there you go.
Like, yeah, that's pretty cool. And it's just such a great model, because it's like you're hosting the TV show. You're getting a big audience, a big customer base for the bow. Then you have this whole kind of merchandise with the fan gear that you come up with. So where did you go from there? Like, this was obviously kind of the beginning.
Well, so what made my show unique really is what landed me to the next opportunity. And when we were doing the show it was called Maximum Archery for about 4.5 years. And I told my cameraman, I said, Mike, with these X Games that are coming out, these skateboards and what kids are doing with bicycles and motocross, and the video games are getting really cool. And man, I mean, kids got a lot of exciting opportunity, a lot of exciting options to spend the time doing. We got me sitting up in a tree going, hey, it's Tuesday, wind's out of the west, we're in Kansas. This sucks.
Yeah,
so we got to pick this up.
Yeah, that kid's doing triple backflips on a half pipe.
Yeah. So we decided, I had this idea, and we renamed the show from Maximum Archery to Maximum Archery World Tour.
Okay.
And we took every date of my hunt, the whole schedule for the year. We were doing 23 episodes, so we're on a lot of hunts.
Yep.
So we would take the dates, the species of what I was hunting, and the location, and we put it across the back of a T-shirt, like an old Van Halen concert shirt or Journey concert shirt. And we started treating, we were on tour. We weren't on a music tour, but we were on a road tour of filming this show, and we treated it like a rock tour. And this was kind of like, okay, the Own More Bone with Ross Archery thing was really cool. This became really cool. And we started filming the travel of the show, and not just the hunt, but the problems in the airport, the problems with customs, getting from here to here, just getting from New Mexico to Colorado, stopping, doing laundry in some town you never heard of. And we'd go on 3, 4, 5 hunts sometimes in a row and not go home.
Yeah.
So we're out on the road, we're living a road life.
Yeah, so now it's like a reality TV show almost.
Before there were reality TV shows.
Yeah.
And I remember we were going through this old small town in Colorado, kind of looked like an old, maybe gold mining town that had been kept up, and it was really small and quite unique looking, and I wanted to see it. We were driving by, and I saw this bar or pub, this corner house looking thing on the corner, and it said local beer, honey blonde on tap. And I'm like, how do we pass that up? I mean, you don't pass that up. Honey blonde on tap, local beer. And Mike said, hey, Brad was driving. He said, turn back around. You do that again, I'm going to film it. And next thing I know, we're in this old time bar playing darts, filming it.
Yeah.
And we started filming more and more road life. And the hunting show went from 3 segments of hunting to 2 segments of life on the road and 1 segment of hunting, which meant we were doing fun, crazy things, almost getting in trouble all the time. Some things, we did have to turn the camera off for, but we would push the envelope. And then the hunting was more impactful because it wasn't boring because it all went down in 6 minutes instead of 25 minutes. So we didn't have to like a bunch of filler B-roll as much. We could get to the point. I coined the phrase pick and stick. So the audience wanted to see us get to picking and sticking and getting up there and hunting and, the encounter and the flight and strike of the arrow. And, they didn't really want to watch us eat breakfast in the lodge and, kill 3 minutes of time talking about nothing. So we had less time to fill with the impactful part of the show, which was the hunt. So I decided, you know what, it's Maximum Archery World Tour. I can play some music, right? I can play a little bit, and I thought I could write. And so why don't I create some hunting songs? So we've got our own music. It's Maximum Archery World Tour. Shouldn't we have our own theme songs for the intro and the exits and the bumpers in and out of the commercials? So I wrote Blood Trail on a Whitetail, Hunt Me Down, Buck of a Lifetime, Support Your Local Wildlife, Gotta Go Hunting Blues. And I wrote these songs and recorded them and used them on the show.
Huh.
Well,
and are you actually, singing and playing the music, or you were just writing lyrics? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I wrote the song and I'm doing the vocal, and I did a guitar pass in the studio, and other musicians, studio musicians had to come in and do parts. I'm not a drummer, not a piano player. So, we had to fill it in, and I'm the novelist. Again, I'm the novelist in the room. I'm not the best musician in the room by far in the recording studio, but I wasn't the best hunter, either. Right. I mean, it was like they were catchy, and it fit our brand of Maximum Archery World Tour. And one day I'm at the Iowa Deer Classic. iTunes had barely come out. Smartphones had come out. They used to have the little square iPods before you could put music actually on your phone. And I'm signing DVDs and posters. There's a line, and these kids in the middle of the line are holding up their phones, playing my song on their phone is playing. And they finally got up to me, and I said, how did you get my song, my music on your phone? And they thought I was mad at them. And I said, I am not mad. I am flattered. I just want to know how you did it. And they said, well, we couldn't find it on the iTunes, so we took it off your website. And I said, okay, great. And then as soon as I got a break, I called Doug Grau, who was managing and producing the Davison Brothers, who helped me make my music and helped me record it. And I said, he had worked with Travis Tritt, developed Travis Tritt, Little Texas, did the Blue Collar Comedy Tour. And I called him up and I said, hey, apparently these kids would buy my music if it was on iTunes. And he said, well, the way iTunes works is you actually have to put up an album. You can't just put up a song. And if they'll buy that, they'll buy some real music. Why don't you come to back to Nashville and let's make a record? So now I'm making a record.
That's awesome. And now the guy, I didn't catch the name, but the producer, you saying, hey, I got these kids out here, like they like the music I'm coming up with. That was enough to convince him of like, all right, come on out, let's make a record. He
was convinced that the music business was going to go digital because of iTunes, file sharing like Napster, the things that were going on. He knew that was the future of the music, and he knew I had an audience. He knew I had a fan base that watched the show. So the worst thing we could do is sell a little bit of music.
Yeah.
It wasn't an all or nothing deal, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we were going to sell enough
to make it worth the time.
to break even on the deal, right?
Sure.
So I came to town, and then that's when he put me with writers like Porter Howe from Little Texas that wrote God Bless Texas, Amy's Back in Austin, Kick a Little, What Might Have Been, with Mark Sutton, with Jim McElroy, Doug Cahan, and the Davison brothers. I wrote with Lee Bryce.
Yeah.
All of a sudden now, and these guys wanted to write with me because they watched my show.
Yeah.
So they were country guys, right?
Like a mutual admiration. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're like, yeah, we'll write with him. Well, what do we got to lose?
That is so cool.
Yeah. We made a record called You Ain't Seen Crazy Yet, followed up by Cold Dead Hand. The third album was called Time to Fight. And I'm recording the fourth album right now called Lucky to Be Alive. We already released a single off of it, All American Heart. And I have a song coming out on Flag Day called I Stand For You, which is June 14th. So awesome. That's how I got to the music business. And then we were playing so much music that I had to choose between keep continuing to do the show or playing music. Mm-hmm. And after 10 years of doing the show, we decided that, I was already living in Nashville now. I'd moved from Kansas City to Nashville. And I just decided that I'd move on to that opportunity.
Yeah. And did somebody kind of like carry the show forward, or was it you just kind of called it a day and wrapped everything up?
It was done. The show was definitely branded, in me. So
I imagine, was that bittersweet? Was that like, having to kind of say goodbye to people I've been working with, for 10 years there?
It wasn't. And I'll tell you why. About 2 years before we quit the show or stopped doing the show, my main partner in crime, Mike Osborne, I called him my main man, Mike, on the show. Mm-hmm. He had to leave the show. His kids were getting to an age where he was just missing too much opportunity, and he probably stuck around a couple years longer than maybe he should have. I mean, he really hung in there as long as he could, but you start missing things. Now, I don't know how women feel, and I don't know how all guys feel. I just know how I feel. So what I'm saying is just my opinion. But if you miss some events of your 2-year-old, that's not the same, at least to me, as missing your son's first prom or coordination high school dance. And you start missing things as they start becoming older children or young adults, and you start missing things in that era. It really starts pulling on you. Yeah. And I knew what he was going through because I was going through the same thing.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you that. Like you mentioned, you were married, your wife from Wisconsin. Did you guys had kids?
We had 4 children together. We were married 13 years. We have 4 children together, and it's all
got it. Now, did they come on the road with you at all, or were you away for, as you're doing all that stuff?
No, they didn't. They did not. I hunted a lot of crazy stuff. I mean, the popularity of the show was I'm out there. I mean, I'm hunting grizzly bears with a bow. I'm hunting Cape buffaloes with the bow. I'm hunting, coastal brown bear and mountain goats, and we were doing some wild things. Feral bullfighting bulls in Mexico. Wow. So they weren't places you would take. We weren't living the life of luxury. We were living on the ground. Yeah. And so Mike had left a couple of years ago. It wasn't the same. I was really getting tired of it. And it just wasn't a hard decision to make. Mm-hmm. It really wasn't. I was really spent on it.
Yeah. And now when you go into the music business, is it kind of more of the same where you're just on the road? Like now you're doing, shows and PR for new albums and the like?
Well, you're on the road playing, but playing is an amazing thing to get to do. Yeah. Entertain, and instead of going to a party, you are the party. Yeah. And I travel on a tour bus, which is pretty luxury, and
I'd say so.
And we're only out a couple days a week. We're not on. I was in the bush in Africa, in Mozambique, and Zimbabwe, and Botswana. Living on the ground. I mean, we were there for a couple months. I mean, at a time. leaving Thursday night and coming home Sunday is not a big deal.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So it's different, but my responsibilities now from the music too, we've grown, right? Now to continue the story. So I had a song out in 2015 called American Rebel. And it went viral as a patriotic anthem. We decided to build a brand around it. I mean, I'd built bows and manufactured things and sourced things and knew how to make a product and sales channels and supply chains, and I knew how it all worked. So we decided to build a brand around this song called American Rebel because it went viral. It landed me on Counting Cars with Danny, where he built me the Second Amendment muscle car, which really shot the song, gave the song a big shot in the arm because he played it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know how we're doing on time, so I'll just, kind of shortcut the story. But, we did that in 2015, and in 2022 of February, so February of last year, we became a publicly traded company on NASDAQ. So
no, you're a publicly traded company, but like of what? I know you got the big brand that came from the song, but what exactly does the company do?
Oh, we manufacture a full line of concealed carry products, coats, backpacks, jackets. We have our primary product and our flagship products. We have a full line of gun safes. And when I say safe, I mean ones that are size refrigerators. I mean, we manufacture, we have 400 stores across the country buying from us, 5 distribution centers, 2 manufacturing factories, 250 employees.
So pretty much everything to kind of that outdoorsman, catering.
Yeah. And we're expanding the line, and because we're public, I can't elaborate on it, in advance, but we're American Rebel is America's patriotic brand, and we're expanding the line into other things that are kind of in this sport outdoor high exciting world that I've always lived in.
And now, I mean, so you're getting kind of fully entrenched in the business world. How involved are you in that? Like, how has that been for you, going from you're crawling around literally in the mud hunting things?
Yeah.
Then you're on stage, blasting away on your guitar. Now you're entering like a board meeting. Like how was that transition? Like, was it easy? Was it natural?
It's been easy and it's been natural for a couple of reasons. The biggest reason is I'm still just doing what I did. I go to New York. I was just there last week. I spoke 3 days at an investor conference, multi-million-dollar investors in the room, people running $500 million, billion-dollar funds, people from around the world. And I did put a sport coat on, but underneath it, I still had my Maximum Archery sleeveless t-shirt. My American Rebel sleeveless t-shirt, wearing jeans, and still just talking the same language and talking about the same things I talk about. And, we run American Rebel, just, they call us the Safe with an Attitude. Go back to Own More Bone with Ross Archery, go back to Maximum Archery World Tour, the way we did the shirts. Now we're the Safe with an Attitude, America's patriotic brand. It's all the same thing. It's marketing, it's putting energy into it. And the second thing that makes it happen is, you remember me talking about Doug Brow, who was my producer. He became president and co-founded the company with me. So he's running all the back end stuff. I'm not dealing with the books and the audits and the filings, and he's handling all the business behind the business. And then we've got we've put on a board of directors. Who's become one of my best friends, Corey Lambert. He used to be the executive vice president of Smith & Wesson. He put together the group that bought Smith & Wesson back and made it a U.S. company again. So when I do these investor conferences, he's with me. So I got a team of people that make it possible for me to just keep being me as we run this company and move it forward, coming up with product ideas, marketing ideas, and promoting the business.
So whose idea was that? Like, you have the hit song, it goes viral, you're on Counting Cars, all of a sudden this all happens. Did you say, hey, let's just turn this to this all-encompassing brand for the outdoorsman? Or did somebody come to you like, hey, dude, I want to leverage you and your brand and kind of blow this thing up?
So originally, the very first mention of it was Doug Brow.
Okay.
my producer, he said, man, he said, when we were selling CDs, revenue was this. When it went to downloads, from iTunes, revenue dropped, even though more people were hearing the music, because for every, person that buys the song off iTunes, there's 10 that don't pay for it, that get it from file sharing and what have you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then when streaming came out and people weren't even really paying for downloads anymore. I mean, I don't know anybody that goes to iTunes and pays $1.29 for a single. I mean,
Yeah.
they just belong to a streaming service, right? You can hear anything you want for $10 a month or what have you.
Yeah.
So revenues really were starting to go down, even though 5, 10, 15, 20, 50, 100 times more people were hearing the music. We were making less money from the music because
Yeah.
most people were getting it for free.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I haven't paid to listen to a song in probably a decade. So I don't know where all the money comes from with the Spotify's and everything else, but
it's a fraction of what it was.
I bet.
So Doug said, hey, why don't we monetize the music? Let's ride this American Rebel thing. Let's monetize the music with a brand. He said that kind of in passing. Then I was out. The gentleman I told you who became our first board of director, Corey Lambert, the guy that helped buy Smith and Wesson, bring it back to the United States, and I was meeting him in Arizona, and not even thinking about talking about American Rebel, but he was asking me about County Cars and the song, and I said, hey, I've got a rough cut of the video. It's not finished, but I'll show you the video. And he wanted to see it. We were having a couple beers in a kind of a sports bar environment, and I played it for him. And he's like, Andy, that's your brand. Yeah, I said, what? And he said, American Rebel. He says, that's you. That's your brand. He said, there's a business here. And I said, funny you said that, because Doug just said to me about 2 weeks ago, we ought to monetize the music with a brand. And we weren't even thinking to call the company necessarily American Rebel. We just thought about making a brand around the music. And that's when Corey and I had another couple of beers and kind of got a napkin out and did that whole, let's just call it American Rebel. And then I came up with America's Patriotic Brand. And we tell this in the investor conference meetings and in presentations, but Corey actually wrote me a check. Yeah. And there was no American Rebel. So he made it out to Andy Ross on tour. And then he called a guy that we both knew who was in finance and had put a lot of companies together, mutual friend. And he said, hey, we got this idea and I just put this seed money in and you're going to match it. And you need to put a check in. And
you're off and running.
We had some available capital ourselves, but we took on these investors. We really weren't investors. They wrote checks and said, here, let's do this. Yeah. And then we decided as we grew, we needed more and more capital, and we ended up being, public. And then we ended up, elevating to NASDAQ in February of 2022.
That's awesome. So it's been a hell of a ride.
Story, right?
It is. It is.
But same story.
Yep. Yeah. A common theme kind of runs throughout it. So a couple things. I mean, one that just keeps coming back into mind as you tell this story, John Daly, the golfer, right?
Sure.
Yeah. I'm like, I just keep seeing you guys on like parallel paths. Like you're out there hunting. He's just smashing golf balls into a lake, and he's come out with songs and, Big Country Star Loves America. I'm like, you guys got to do something, crisscross somehow.
We've met, we've had beers together. His favorite hangout in Nashville's Losers, and which is owned by George Strait's manager, Herb, and his very smart partner in the bar business, Steve Ford. Yeah. And I live in a high rise downtown in Nashville. And if you went out on my deck right now, and I don't golf, but you do, you could hit a golf ball and land it on the roof of Losers. I mean, Losers right there next to Winners, of course. Yeah. And that's his hang when he's in town. I mean, and so,
you should have him do that. He could hit a golf ball from your deck onto Losers.
He could.
That'd go viral.
I could have shot an arrow on it for sure.
Yeah, I bet.
On top of it, but
so what's next for you, Andy? I mean, you're doing all these different things. A lot of them just kind of seem to kind of, just you have this energy and this passion for, America, for the outdoors, for music, and it just keeps kind of creating Like, do you have any idea what you want to do next?
But we want to continue to build America's patriotic brand first and foremost. When the day comes that I'm done playing music, I would still like to be running this company, and I'd like for this company to truly become America's patriotic brand, be around a lot longer than I am,
Mhm.
and grow and do some good, promote American business, promote products that are made in America. We're obviously pro Constitution. We're obviously pro Second Amendment.
Yeah.
Freedom fighters. And so we want to get our message out as the company grows. I'm not done doing music yet. Still going to play some music. Would like to get involved in writing a book. If I can get American Rebel to the point where we're headed and keep going, I'd like to write a book called American Rebel, The Making of America's Patriotic Brand. I'd like to go on a book tour, sign books, play 4 or 5 songs on my acoustic guitar, and sign books and have people donate for the books at, I don't care if I'm in churches, bars, clubs, wherever.
Yep.
And have American Rebel pay for those books, because it'll be good advertisement for the company, good publicity that we're out doing this, and raise a lot of money. I got a goal target of $50 million for children's charities. So I got to get the company where it's big enough that people will want to read the book, so I can write the book and tell the story that I've kind of told loosely on your show today, and actually put it in a form that where somebody would want to read it and tie it into the faith a little bit, tie it into chasing the American dream, tie it into having a good time, and leave that book kind of as the legacy, I guess, of what I've done, and when I'm not here to tell the story.
Yeah.
Other than that, I can't imagine doing anything else, and other than keep going. I'll be 57 years old in August, and
Good for you.
thankfully still feel like I'm 25, and nothing has slowed me down. I'm blessed with good health. I'm not the guy at 57 years old that wakes up and goes, oh, my shoulder, I don't have any of that.
Yeah.
So I better keep running while I still can.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I would be very surprised if all that doesn't come to fruition, with your track record. So if I could, something that my guests, or my viewers, I should say, really appreciate is this lightning round that we wrap up with, where I'll just fire a couple questions at you. You tell me the first thing that comes to mind, and then our listeners can get to know a little bit more about you. First up, if you had a quote to live by, what would it be?
It'd be a quote I made myself, and it says, "It doesn't matter how late you stay out on Saturday night giving life the finger. It's still a good idea to get up and go to church on Sunday."
That's awesome. I love it. Put that on a t-shirt. So growing up in Kansas, did you have a childhood hero?
Childhood hero. Well, when I was 5, it was Speed Racer.
Okay.
He was the cartoon character, an underdog, of course. As I got older, I always loved music, obviously, and so anybody that was rocking and rolling, I looked up to. Eddie Van Halen was obviously a hero of mine. Loved NASCAR growing up, and loved Jeff Gordon, and loved the rivalry between Jeff Gordon and Dale Earnhardt. My father was probably my biggest number one all-time lifetime hero, for sure.
Awesome. Very cool. And so you're talking about possibly writing a book. Do you have a favorite book?
No, I don't actually. I try to discipline myself to read more. I'm not a reader. I've only read probably a handful of books in my life, and I try to, anytime you try to go through any type of self-improvement thing, whether it doesn't matter if it's a course or a sermon or whatever, everybody says, you ought to read 30 minutes a day, and I'm terrible at it. So I don't know anything about writing a book. I will need a ghostwriter. I'll just be able to tell the stories and lay on the couch. And but I do have one book that my father made sure by the age of 12 that I had read, and it was a hard read at 12, but I've read it a handful of times. It's called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and it's probably a number one get a person going and book out there.
Yep.
I can't
Yeah,
tell you how many when I mention it, everybody knows the book.
Oh, without a doubt. That's one of the best. And so kind of in that same vein, I typically start the day off, reading for a little bit. That's one of my little habits. Do you have a morning routine? And if so, how does it start?
Oh, it's lame. Oh, it's so lame. You're a girl. I mean, it's so lame. Yeah, I specifically get up probably 2 hours earlier than most people would to start their day. I'm not the guy that has an 8 o'clock breakfast meeting and gets up at 7 and jumps in the shower and walks out the door. If I got an 8 o'clock, I'm probably up at 5.
Okay.
But I spend minimal an hour. I get up, come out here, make coffee, and take my laptop, turn on either Sports Center or something, and I just lean back against a couple pillows in my headboard, and I hang out in bed for at least an hour, if not an hour and a half every morning. But I get up extra early to be able to do that. But if I don't return my emails and then look at my calendar and make sure my calendar, I can't jump up out of bed and just face the day, because it's chaotic.
Yeah.
If you don't get up extra early and be ready for it,
So you kind of ease into the day.
Yeah, I lay around for an hour drinking coffee and remapping out my day and returning emails, and I get on social media like everybody else.
Okay. And then last two questions here. I know the book, you didn't have an immediate favorite, but as far as movies are concerned, do you have a favorite movie?
Oh, I got a couple. I love that movie, Hidden Figures, Numbers.
Okay.
Let's see. Favorite, comedy, the My Cousin Vinny's and some of those shows come to mind.
Yeah.
Haven't watched a lot of movies as of late, so
okay.
I'd probably leave it there.
All right. So My Cousin Vinny and Hidden Figures. And then last question of the day, I love to travel. I've gotten a lot out of it. I know my listeners always, like talking travel too. You've done quite a bit, particularly with the hunting and the touring. Do you have a favorite vacation or a favorite destination?
Well, favorite hunting destination would have been, hunting moose in the Yukon. We would go into Whitehorse, and they would fly us out on a float plane a couple hours, land us on the McMillan River, and leave us at a trapper's cabin. And that's just about as beautiful of being in God's country and surrounded by just this, if you're an outdoors person, that's just about as good as it gets, in my opinion. We traveled the world, but we never spent a lot of time in any one place. So right now, if I just said, what's your favorite destination place today? My favorite destination place is right where I'm sitting, in my place in Nashville, Tennessee, and getting to be home and not having to pack or unpack for a 5-7 day stretch is where I want to be.
Gotcha. That's good enough. All right. Well, thanks so much, Andy. This was awesome. I mean, you've had quite a journey, and I hope everybody can kind of pick away some nuggets here, some inspiration, and learn a lot from you along the way.
Perfect. Thank you very much for having me, and do it anytime. Hope you have me back.
Without a doubt. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Caderna podcast. I'm Brian Caderna. Today, we had a chance to speak with Andy Ross. I will leave his contact info, his website and such in the show notes. Definitely check it out. I'm sure he's got some cool stuff cooking for us in the future. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. All right, buddy. Thank you.
This podcast is intended for the general public and for informational purposes only. The show does not provide any recommendations or investment advice regarding any specific account type, service, strategy, or product, or to otherwise act in any fiduciary or other capacity. Please contact a financial professional for guidance and information that is specific to your situation. Brian Caderna does not provide tax or legal advice. Please contact your accountant or legal advisor to discuss your situation. Guest speakers and their firms are not affiliated with or endorsed by Park Avenue Securities, Guardian, or Caderna Financial Team, and opinions stated are their own. All investments contain risk and may lose value. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. References to specific securities, asset classes, and financial markets are for illustrative purposes only and do not constitute a solicitation, offer, or recommendation to purchase or sell a security. Brian Caderna is a registered representative and financial advisor of Park Avenue Securities, LLC, PAS. OSJ 300 Broadacres Drive, Suite 175, Bloomfield, New Jersey 07003. Phone number 973-244-4420. Securities products and advisory services offered through PAS, member FINRA SIPC. Financial representative of the Guardian Life Insurance Company of America, Guardian, New York, New York. PAS is a wholly owned subsidiary of Guardian. Caderna Financial Team is not an affiliate or subsidiary of PAS or Guardian. California Insurance License Number 0K04194.